examples. Let's take Peter Obi, for instance. Back in 2006, as a governor of Anambra State, he was impeached by his own state assembly in what many called a political ambush. But Obi didn't just pack his bags and vanish. He went, to court. He fought his case, and within 3 months, the courts reinstated him. Later, when his tenure was controversially cut short, he returned again after another legal battle. And that resilience there turned him into a national figure. That laid the groundwork for his eventual presidential run in 2023. Or you could think of Ayo Fayose Nikiti. 2006, I was there, I know this. He was impeached after a dramatic face-off with lawmakers and corruption allegations. Many thought that, that was the end of his story. But 8 years later, in 2014, Ayo Fayose staged one of the biggest comebacks in Nigerian politics, defeating an incumbent governor to reclaim the seat, the very seat that he once lost. So both stories show something, that in Nigeria, Nigerian politics defeats, well, if you're defeated in Nigerian politics, it's rarely a funeral for you. Sometimes it's just like, political fasting. You go back, settle in, come back leaner, hungrier, and sharper. So if you ask me, Fubara still has a chance. He's boosted Rivers' internally generated revenue. He's pushed some infrastructure projects and still holds the people's mandate. You could see them the past week. But his weaknesses, well, they're very clear. A hostile assembly, perhaps. Wike's looming shadow, that's not going to go anywhere. And the stain of being sidelined by Abuja. So here's the riddle for the weekend. Fubara has his seat back. But is it really a throne, or is it a ticking time bomb? Well, we wait to see, as Rivers State has gone back to democracy. At least we hope. We hope for the best. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino Appeal, and I'm not alone this morning, as I never am. Of course, we have the delectable Queen Celestine, who's joining me once again. Queen, how you doing?
I'm very well. Morning, Mazino.
Grand. Every weekend, it's so good to wake up and see you here. Yay!
Few bodies.
Oh, you're staying for the long run. In any case, let's do the news, because we've got quite the show.
Monologue. Come over.
I will.
Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra. I am Queen Celestine, and this morning we're starting in Port Harcourt. The Nigerian Navy ship Pathfinder has taken to the streets in a show of force. The quarterly foot march is designed to demonstrate the Navy's combat readiness, especially as parts of Rivers State coastal areas have been hit by piracy attacks in recent months. Residents are hoping the exercise signals stepped up efforts to secure the waterways and tackle maritime crime head on.
Yes, indeed. Now, to start with this morning, we have our News Central correspondent, Biola Festus. She is on the march with the Navy and joins us live from there right now. Biola Festus, good morning. Good of you to be our very first guest here. Well, not so much a guest on Breakfast Extra. But please, what's the Navy saying about the purpose of today's match? I'm hoping that Biola Festus is with us already. Grand. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mazino.
Ooh, there she is.
Well, we are currently on the march with the Navy this morning. Now, the essence of this march is a show of force to alert the residents that they are ready, they are battle ready. And of course, River State is a largely coastal area where we've had several cases of sea piracy, and we've had several cases of kidnapping, and of course, accidents on the waterway. Not forgetting that crime on the River State waterway has been on the increase in recent times. So this march is one of their show of force to indicate that they are ready, and of course, to wait off those waterway criminals who may want to perpetrate mayhem on waterway travelers, and of course the Nigerian citizens. So the Nigerian Navy are showing that they are ready, they are fit. It's been over an hour march, with march to the highway. right now, we are going back to go earlier. All they were saying is that this march, this energy, this strength, this figure, they will take it to the waterways and, of course, protect their lives and property from being attacked by the bad boys on the sea.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Biola. One more question before I let you go. What are you observing? How are residents responding to the show of force there? Do they see it as reassuring?
Yes, while we passed by some residential areas, some shops, business places, we saw the people piled out in their numbers, cheering the Nigerian Navy, smiling, and of course, they know that this is not a show of force to say we are in trouble. They know that this is a show to let them know that they are well protected. So the people have been in solidarity with the naval officers on the streets of Port Harcourt. So the mood of the people has been that of, oh yes, we have this man. You know, when somebody has a body that you'll be rest assured that you're protected. So that's the feel of the people this morning. Mazino, Hunting.
And Biola, can you just tell us, like, beyond the visibility and the matches we can see, what concrete measures is the Navy putting in place to sustain maritime security in the long run?
While I can give you the detail of their recent measures, but over the month, they've been telling us that their men are on the watch, on the lookout on our waterways. Well, travelers have disputed that several times. When we had the case of sea piracy on the Bonima waterway from 3 months ago, the travelers did tell us that they saw a lot of these men manning the coastal areas and their waterways. But we did show for the people, like they said, so we don't hope the Nigerian Navy will reach to that advice.
All right then. Well, Biola.
So funny, although it was said jokingly, but of course it is very valid.
Biola Festus, we want to say thank you very much for bringing us details about what's happening there in Port Harcourt as we speak. The Navy in a show of force to reassure the citizens that they're ready anytime, any day. Thank you very much, Biola. Let's go on a short break now. When we come back, I think we're going to be taking the dailies, and we have more conversation, plenty of conversation for our Saturday edition. Stay with us.
And welcome again to Breakfast Extra. Mazino, it was such an amazing sight to see the Navy, you know, just
it looked like they were putting Biola through the work.
I think we needed it. You know, I like the way Biola was following.
I think you should be there.
But it was awesome. It was awesome. Good morning. My name is Queen Celestine, and here's what we've got lined up for you this morning on Breakfast Extra. A big report on the Lagos fires that destroyed parts of Afriland Towers, UBA, FIRS, and Mandela's Market. We have reports from our correspondent Israel Athorobo. Then the big story, activist Omoyele Showore's clash with the DSS, free speech or hate speech. And in Rivers State, of course, Governor Siminalayi Fubara's absence from the lawmakers' return raises new political questions. We'll also bring you a special report on fraudsters posing as Bureau de Change agents in Lagos, investigated by our correspondent Marshal Anthony Onoye. Health is on the radar too, as the Ebola outbreak in the DRC claims more lives. And we'll be joined by Dr. Alera Roberts to assess Nigeria's preparedness. And of course, on Wellness Extra, therapist Akinosho Samson joins us to mark World Suicide Prevention Month. And later, a look at Malawi decides 2025. What's the upcoming polls mean for the nation's democracy, with insights with Bongani Siziba? Plenty ahead this morning right here on Breakfast Extra.
Yes,
stay
indeed
with us. Zeno?
Grand, looking forward to all the conversations. There's so much to talk about today, especially everything that affects us in Nigeria, even if it is not stationed here. And well, one of those cases is the current case in the DRC. The Democratic Republic of Congo has declared its first Ebola outbreak in 3 years. I mean, this is a worrying thing. It's since early September,
Right.
in the Kasai province near Bulape, at least 48 confirmed and probable cases of Ebola have been reported, with 31 deaths already, according to the World Health Organization. Health workers are scrambling. Over 900 contacts of infected persons are being traced. Vaccination campaigns have begun. Essential supplies are being flown in, and treatment centers are being set up. It reminds you of, well, what year was that again? All over again.
Yes.
This outbreak is far from Nigeria, but it raises urgent questions for us here. How vulnerable are Nigerians' land and air borders to spill over if anything was to happen? Is our health surveillance strong enough to detect early cases? Or do our health workers and facilities have enough capacity, PPE, isolation wards, and vaccine, cold chain logistics? Are our ports of entry screening good? These aren't hypothetical queries. They have real implications for lives, the economy, and also public confidence.
And this is not the first time West or Central Africa has grappled with Ebola threats. The DRC has seen 15 prior outbreaks since the 1970s, showing both advances in response and recurring challenges in remote areas with rough terrain. Past outbreaks have revealed systemic issues, delays in detection, poor infrastructure in rural health zones, weak community awareness, and challenges in contact tracing and vaccine development, or deployment, I beg your pardon. In Nigeria, during the 2014 Ebola outbreak, swift border screening, community engagement, and emergency operations helped avert wider spread. Yet since then, funding, training, emergency planning, and disease surveillance have waxed and waned. With frequent travel between Nigeria and DRC, porous borders, and informal crossings, any gap in our system could prove costly.
We had to do all that because you need to know how important this is.
Right.
Now, let's welcome Dr. Alero Roberts, public health specialist, to help us explore Nigeria's preparedness, the gaps, and what must be done now. And also we have Aim Zonveni, editor-in-chief, Kinshasa Times, will be joining us as well to have this conversation.
Good morning.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Alero. Good to have you here. I'd like us to start with what you think the situation, or how you think the situation in the DRC might be a problem for us here in Nigeria. Let's know exactly why we should be at alert.
Concerned about what is going on in the DRC, because we do know from past experience, and the year was 2014, by the way, that international travel is the main reason why the Ebola virus disease got into Nigeria in the first place. I've actually been looking it up to find out whether the Ebola virus, the virus that causes the disease, somehow, exists within Nigeria, but there have been no documented report in any of the websites that I checked to know whether it's actually native to Nigeria, so to speak. So our biggest threat will be through international travel. And that's why you will find out that on the 6th of September, the NCDC issued a public health advisory telling people, be on alert, these are the symptoms to look out for, this is where not to go. If anybody has had any contact with anybody from these areas, this is what to do.
Okay, so Dr. Alero, my question now would be, most times when we see these outbreaks, they always come in different forms, and, they just appear sometimes is, more tragic, sometimes it's less. What earlier warning signs should Nigerians be watching out for, considering our proximity and movement of people across borders?
I think the most important thing for people to realize, and this is something that we keep teaching over and over again, not every fever is malaria, number one. So if anybody has a fever, aches and pains, neck pains, please go to the nearest accredited health facility for proper screening and assessment and treatment. So these are the things to look out for. There's what we call the dry symptoms, the headache, nasal congestion, discomfort, aches and pains in the joints. Anybody, a fever, of course, anybody having any of those symptoms. And then we have to remember that these are very generalized symptoms. And most often we just most people just assume that, oh, it's malaria, this is what malaria feels like in my body, and then goes to a chemist, buys some anti-malarials and thinks that it's all over. No, it is not. We have to realize that we have to push out that message to the public. Not every fever is malaria. In fact, we are seeing fewer and fewer malaria cases compared to the number of fever cases that we have. Lagos State put out a data point that less than 1% of fevers that they tested were positive for malaria, which means that over 98% of the fevers were not malaria. They could have been something else. And it could have been Ebola. We don't know. So please, if you know of anybody who's suffering from body temperature, aches and pains, anything kind of feverish illness condition, please encourage the person very strongly to go to an accredited health facility.
Dr. Alero, thank you very much for that. I also wanted to note that there was a scare in Abuja, but it was confirmed that it wasn't Ebola. But it's good to always note that if there's anything that you're checking, that you've seen, any observations, that you should go to the hospital. Thank you for that alert. We're also now being joined by Ames Zonveni. He's the editor-in-chief of Kinshasa Times. Mr. Zonveni, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. We'd like to know what the situation is in the Kasai province of the DRC, since you're in that side of town. What is the situation like there?
The situation now is pretty much contained, even though there are still some cases arriving, but the situation is pretty much contained.
Mr. Zonveni, my apologies, but we are unable to hear you. It might be because of the device you have connected to your phone, so we are unable to hear you properly. It's not very good audio. If you can please help take away that device, I'm sure that we'll be able to get your submission properly.
Can you hear me now?
Better, yes, much better.
Now?
Thank you very much.
Is it better now?
Yes, much better, thank you.
Yeah, I was saying that Bulape, which is the city where the outbreak was first discovered, the situation there is pretty much contained now, because upon discovery of suspect cases, the cold chain was, in the days that followed, deployed, and frontline personnel were involved in order to contain the propagation of Ebola in other cities of the country.
So, Dr. Zonveni,
Mr.
Zonveni, pardon me if I butcher your name. So the DRC right now has faced over 15 Ebola outbreaks in the past.
Actually, this is the 16th case.
A lot. So would you say that the response now is different from the previous ones, and what challenges persist in the rural areas?
Well, the response is definitely different now, because the DRC, as you've indicated, what they indicated, is now experiencing its 16th iteration of the Ebola outbreaks. And in 2021, the DRC was able to conduct a randomized clinical trial that allowed the country to establish that two investigational products were now medications. These are being now used in Bulape, in the Kasai, where the outbreak has happened. That's the first thing. Secondly, the DRC comes with quite a lot of experience in this disease, because it has been having it for the past 16 iterations. And now, immediately upon receiving news that we had another outbreak there, samples were sent to Kinshasa and the cases were confirmed, and immediately frontline personnel were deployed, being vaccinated, and also contact tracing was happening. So the DRC has simply deployed its long experience of managing the disease.
Thank you, Zonveni. Dr. Alero, let me come back to you. And jumping off of what Zonveni has just told us regarding the DRC's experience in handling this disease, it continues to reoccur. 16 outbreaks, that's very, very interesting. I'm wondering exactly what the source is. Why does it continue to reoccur in the DRC? That's on one hand. I have another question regarding logistics of this all and when it comes to border control, but why is there the reoccurrence each time?
I think the best person to answer that question will be the virologists and the zoologists, because this is a zoonotic disease, which means that the virus is common, is endogenous in the animal population. We're not even sure which animal it is, but a lot of people have suspected all kinds of bushmeat sources. It's when it crosses over into the human population that it becomes a problem. So you can see from this picture that they're showing that that juxtaposition of human beings in a very bushy, highly vegetated area means that there can be easy transmission if you eat or come in contact with an animal that has the Ebola virus in it. And the Ebola virus may not necessarily be dangerous to the animal, but of course it's very dangerous to the human being. But the zoologists and the virologists are in a better position to give accurate information on that. I'm just speaking as a public health physician.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
And that is why the last time too we had that public health advisory that people should stay away from animals. They're not sure how they died. They're not properly, treated and cooked, and just stay away and be safe.
Okay. Thank you very much. Zomveni also told that in the DRC they've employed the long arm of experience when it comes to tackling this disease. Now they're ready, it would seem, but we here in Nigeria, we have some of the biggest entry points in Africa, if not the biggest entry point in Africa. And we expect people from all across Africa. So how prepared would you say Nigeria is this 16th breakout in the DRC, where we still have very questionable border controls when it comes to these matters? I had a couple of experience during the last outbreak at the airports, and it made me wonder if we are absolutely truly prepared. How prepared do you think Nigeria is?
To be honest with you, we've got a lot of experience regarding this. And I don't say this lightly because I'm not a government spokesperson, even if I'm a government worker. But to be honest with you, polio, we must never, never, never underestimate the efforts we put in to contain polio at the time. And all that training goes towards disease eradication, whatever the disease may be. In 2014, when Ebola finally hit our shores and we had all that tragic outbreak, all the country had to do was deploy the polio team to Ebola, and everything that they had in place to monitor, surveil, and eradicate polio, eliminate polio, was simply deployed to yet another disease. As it was, how we described it was, copy and paste, find polio, remove it, put Ebola in place, and the strategies, the processes, that was what we employed. It has remained in place because we've had an ongoing outbreak of Lassa fever. We've had spotty outbreaks of other viral hemorrhagic fevers. We're still monitoring and maintaining our polio status so that we can get to the final lap. And so those are the things that we've simply had in place. However, and I know that's the next question you're going to ask, so can I just preempt that?
Go ahead.
The question is, have we sustained this? So when you're talking about, say, the border control processes, don't forget, Nigeria has over 4,000 kilometers of land border with 4 countries, Benin, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, plus over almost 1,000 kilometers of coastal border in the Gulf of Guinea. How can we monitor this? Needless to say, it cannot be monitored, and it should not even be monitored. It's a waste of personnel and resources. But it means that when you think of the number of villages and settlements that are near the border, think of Seme all around the country, think of Chikanda in Ilorin, Kwara State, think of Babana. These are areas where the villagers or the people in the settlements are crossing from left to right. They are going to their neighbor's house. It's a different country. So these are the things that make it difficult to say border control. What we can do, and what we are doing very effectively, and we've been doing it since COVID. The last time I traveled every time we come into the country, we are made to fill that form, that disease screening form. And that's what the NCDC has had in place. We have had these protocols in place. And we just need to make sure that they are strengthened, they are ongoing. But we have to also take personal responsibility when it comes to this, to make sure that we listen to the public health advisories and put them in place for ourselves as individuals.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Alero. So, Mr. Zomvani, I think I used Dr. Alero for you the earlier time, I beg your pardon. So reports suggest that, vaccination campaigns have already begun in Kasai. Can you tell us how effective has the deployment been so far, and is the vaccine access equitable?
To require logistic, especially in terms of cold chain, because these vaccines have to be deployed in a temperature-controlled environment. So the DRC, which is a very large country of 2 time zones, the vaccines are in Kinshasa, which is the capital. But now, as I speak, after 5 to 10 days of preparing the logistics of deploying the vaccines, they finally reached Malawi, where the outbreak has happened. And now we have noticed a stark improvement. Pretty much anybody coming now, and they start with the frontline personnel, those that are like the nurses that are in immediate contact with the disease. Those are the ones that are first vaccinated. They call it ring vaccination. And then contact tracing happens whenever there are symptoms that are identified, immediately samples are collected and are sent to Kinshasa for checks. But I can tell you, the vaccines strategy is now in full implementation and is delivering results.
Zomvani, could you also tell us about the containment, the areas that are affected? How, should I use the word secure? Is it, how separate is it or segregated is it from mass population?
In fact, the disease, as I've indicated, has occurred in a place called Bulape. Bulape is in a place in the DRC, in the province known as Kasai, maybe not the name, but what should be mentioned about this part of the DRC is that it is fully landlocked with no immediate international borders nearby, which means the disease really stays within the DRC without the possibility of it reaching a nearby country. But of course, I think the doctor mentioned that someone could move from that location, come to the capital city, and then eventually travel. And so the potential of the disease through travel, reaching other parts of the DRC with international borders is not real. But the National Institute of Medical Research deployed its personnel there to ensure that pretty much that does not happen, that people do not travel from Bulape to other parts of the country and potentially spread the disease further in the country and possibly beyond the borders of the country.
Okay, so Dr. Roberts, I wanted to ask that, so on Nigerian side, how critical is community engagement and trust building in preventing, panic and stigma? Should we, should a case emerge again, how prepared are we?
Good question. So let's take it a bit at a time. Community engagement is essential, and thank you very much for this program, and thank you very much for bringing the gentleman from DRC to give us both sides of the story. Community engagement is fundamental in the sense that what we need to do is educate the public. What we need to do is to engage the community leaders so that they also speak to their people. We need to understand what the public fear and be able to address those concerns and anxieties at a level that the public can understand. So the media is critical to this. Safe media, sensitive media reporting. I know the NCDC has engaged in a lot of training of the media to get proper health reporting out. That is absolutely critical. So, and that helps to build trust. Again, we've got to build that trust again between the public and the health facilities. Now, this works all very well in a place like Lagos, place like Port Harcourt, Abuja, but we need to be able to push it out to the more rural and underserved areas, because the issue is that if it does come, and he raised a very important point, where Kasali is a landlocked area, nothing stops anybody traveling from there to the capital city and from there out of the country. Don't forget, Ebola has an incubation period of 2 to 21 days. That means for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the person may feel well and travel and have no problem at all, and then suddenly come down with symptoms of Ebola, and he's in another country, in another state, in another part of the country. So it's important that we continue to educate the public about the symptoms, the preventive measures, and what does not work. We don't want people drinking salt or bathing in salt water or washing themselves with bleach, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alera. I remember that was actually a thing. There were those concerns, people actually using some, I don't know what to call them, means to try and be safe. However, let's come back to Mr. Zomveni. Zomveni, so in 2014, the media was very responsible for getting word out, community engagement when it comes to making sure that the disease does not spread. At least here in Nigeria, we had plenty of outreach programs, whether it was on traditional media or whether it was physical engagement with communities. Now, I'm wondering what the situation is like in Kasai, what the situation is like in the DRC. How involved is the media in getting the message out? And are people aware of what to do ordinarily, noting that this is the 16th outbreak? Do they know how to conduct themselves in these situations?
Of course, in the National Institute of Medical Research, they have a whole social mobilization and communication department whose role is, whenever there is an outbreak, and this is part of disease preparedness, their role is to go to where the disease is occurring and engage with the masses, giving them advice on the right behavior to demonstrate. Now, when it comes to Ebola, in the DRC more specifically, emphasis is put on the fact that the moment you notice symptoms such as fever, such as throwing up, and all these other symptoms that are quite similar to other disease, get to the treatment point or to the hospital and get tested to know whether this is Ebola or a different disease. The other aspect, which is maybe specific to the DRC, is that now that the country was able to conduct that trial, and we have 2 medications that are effective against Ebola, but these medications are only effective if you get to the treatment center as early as possible. Beyond a certain date, it becomes impossible for these medications to work. So in part, amongst the advice given to the people here is that whenever you start feeling those signs, get to the hospital at the earliest, so that if it is Ebola, then the medication is known as Inmaz and Ibanga that are now FDA approved in the US and are available in the DS, actually are being used in this outbreak. If you get to the treatment center early, chances of survival are quite high. But if you get late, when you are already hemorrhaging, it is difficult to recover from this. So it's really part of the communication which is given to the masses. Now, how is it given? In the cities where we have internet, where we have online media, this goes through our mass media. In the villages, what we tend to use is community radio stations, because these are spreading wide across the country, and they have a wider reach. And also, the DRC is a country with 250 different ethnic groups and 400 languages. So we try and channel these messages in the various languages the country has, but mostly in the 4 national languages that are understood pretty much across the country.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zomveni and Dr. Alera Roberts, for joining us this morning and bringing this on the ground perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So I guess I would say that I'm filled with hope, especially after Dr. Alera has told us that we have...
In case anything happens, no, I have salt.
No.
I have salt.
No. Salt will not do anything, and it's been advised that you, first off, if you feel anything that's off, make sure you get to a hospital.
Straight up.
Please, okay? Well, thank you very much. Do stay tuned, because we have another conversation inside the hour here for Breakfast Extra. It's only the first one, and we've got more coming your way. Welcome back. It's another big story here, and, well, still Breakfast Extra. Earlier this week, a fire broke out at Afriland Towers on Broad Street, Lagos Island, also affecting nearby UBA and FIRS staff. It is reported that several staff members, tragically, were affected. 4 officials of the FIRS, and also including senior managers. Now, UBA, they've come out to tell about, well, the instance. The fire devastated commercial space, destroyed property, and sent shockwaves through the corporate and also trader communities. Now, that wasn't all. On the same day, the same night, in fact, another inferno gutted Mandela's market and nearby buildings. NEMA confirmed that 4 buildings and some 200 shops were destroyed. The fire reportedly began around 7 p.m. from a faulty changeover switch and spread rapidly due to shortage of flammable material. No shortage of flammable material. It was clothing, plastic, and footwear. Traders lost goods. One person was rescued with injuries. Here on News Central, we had a report filed in by on the same day by Ebola Israel. Let's take a look at that report, and then we'll be inviting him on.
The fire broke out around 7:30 p.m. and continued to rage throughout the night, consuming several shops and goods. Firefighters battled relentlessly to contain the flames, while traders helplessly watched their investments go up in smoke.
It's uncountable money. Jewelries, I said big ones. Imagine I get some wristwatches that 250 for one, 150 for one, and everywhere full for shop. Shop full, I cannot calculate it. But if I were to say, I can say it's above 30 million. Waiting be 30 million, it's above. Everything that is there is above 30 million. Waiting be 30 million. I don't know how to count it. I don't know how to calculate it.
The goods, particularly myself, even an average man here in Mandelas, run into millions. So you know what it is. You know what it is for a businessman here in Mandelas, worth into millions.
Now, while onlookers say the cause of the fire is an electric spark, officials say the cause of the fire has been traced to the unsafe use of generators on the upper floor of the building.
The wire can't spark for this side. As the wire spark, everybody can lose this wire they spark, then everybody can run come up for that side. Everybody stay here. After 1 minute, we say the fire don't go down. After 1 minute, it just spark again. Then a single spark. People call you say this is not the common fire. This is not the common fire, but they shall say fire, fire, fire. Then before people go look there, it don't take all the hope.
At the first building where the fire started, there was a Igbo guy that was using the place for commercial purposes. He came down and requested for the cutout, electricity cutout to be removed. By the time people follow him upward, to the floor, they found the place well alive, which means the fire was not just started, which means probably he was trying to do it on his own, and the fire escalated.
I know they have a generator up there, and we've been telling them that they should all bring down their generator to the ground floor. Generator is the cause of this fire.
The Lagos State Fire Service said the fire is now under control, and authorities have ordered that all generators must be kept on the ground floor.
We will serve them that every plaza that they should bring down their generator to the ground floor. We've served them some weeks ago, and they all failed to comply. Now we are taking action against them.
What sort of action are you taking against them?
Well, we are locking all plaza. We are locking them up. We will not until they bring their generator down.
This is a second fire on Lagos Island in just 1 day, following an earlier incident caused by an inverter malfunction in another building.
The batteries from the inverter that was installed in part of a compartment in the building start going up one after the other. That's what happened, and the firefighter was not here at the time, but we have a fire extinguisher which they used to try and fight the fire, but it was too much for them to handle.
I think my own message to them is for them to be fire safety conscious.
For traders at Mandelas, the road to recovery will be long as they count their losses from a night of devastation. In Lagos, for News Central, Israel Ifirobo.
Fires in Lagos markets are not new. Over the past years, several markets have burned. Balogo, Munshi Market, Idumota, etc. Losses in lives, property, sometimes without proper investigations or enforcement of fire safety rules. Authorities often promise regulation reviews, building inspections, and emergency response upgrades. But enforcement tends to be patchy. Traders consistently report weak regulation, poorly maintained electrical systems, overcrowding, and poor infrastructure in market buildings. Authorities such as NEMA, Lagos State Fire Service, and the state government periodically issue directives. Install fire extinguishers, ensure patrons avoid storing flammable materials improperly, and check wiring.
So let's invite our News Central correspondent, Israel Ifirobo, who filed in that report from earlier. Israel, you're welcome. Thank you very much, Israel, for joining us this morning.
Israel, thank you for joining us. My first question would be, when you got there, I know that you filed in the report, but I need you to tell us, because you saw it with your eyes, when you got there, what was the atmosphere like? What did you see?
As you know, Quinn, good morning to you. And there were two fires, two incidences, like you rightly said, and indeed from the report as stated. So let's start from the very first one that started earlier in the day. So it was the one on Broad Street, and that fire started from the basement of the building, and the cause of that fire was as a result of some inverter malfunction, and that started blowing off, one after the other, and that was exactly what caused the stampede, so to speak, at that first tower. That was where we had the very first fire. The atmosphere there, which is your question, the atmosphere there at that point in time was that of apprehension, and people were just trying to scramble. News Central didn't get to that particular location as at the time the fire started, but videos that we saw online showed people jumping off the fourth floor, the fifth floor, the sixth floor of that particular building, which was indeed very, very dangerous for them. And according to them, they had to do that because there was some kind of poor ventilation in that building. They claim there was some kind of poor ventilation in that particular building, and that was why the smoke from the basement of that building that went all the way up the building covered the whole place. Already at this point in time, the protocol for fire was already triggered, which means that there was no longer power in the building, so the whole place was dark. Imagine a place where they claim it has a poor ventilation and then no power, so the smoke had nowhere else to escape to, and that was why they started breaking the glasses for them to be able to get some sort of ventilation and eventually start jumping off the building. The mood around there was that of sorrow and grief. I saw a man who was really crying, telling me that his boss, who unfortunately died in that fire incident, wasn't meant to be there on that particular day. He only came there to do a handover to the next person, and he unfortunately passed on. So people were standing by wondering, why do we still have such incidences of this nature happen on Lagos Island? That's the first fire. And the second fire that happened on that day happened about some buildings away from that first incident, and that was at Mandela Central Plaza. This place in particular has a history of fire incidences. The main Mandela's building has been caused by fire over 2 years ago, and that building has remained the way it is till date. And when we got there, we saw the fire just starting off. I think I'll just stop here for now until you can go ahead and ask me more questions. I can give you more details.
Trust us, we have so many questions to ask you because it was quite an ordeal for most people watching even. And we saw so much happen. At that first fire, we saw people attempting to come out from the building through the windows. We saw them jump, actually. So it raised the question about procedure when it comes to evacuating a building. I've been in buildings in corporate environments where there's always a test for fire alarm, and then there's an exercise that goes on. So we have most of this in place, but to see what happened on the day that a fire actually happened was that people were jumping out of windows. It didn't seem like as if there was a procedure or process in place already. Was there any such process? Did they have a fire evacuation type of process on ground?
Well, to answer that question, when you go to these buildings and they tell you, I mean, you see these things pasted on walls as strategic places in buildings across, the country. But the question is, do they really follow through with such procedures? Do they really go ahead and plan for eventualities? Now, no one prays, no one hopes for a fire to break out, but when it does, what's the procedure? Do people remember, to go to do the right thing and follow the lay down procedure for an escape Was there even an escape route for that particular building? I spoke to a safety expert yesterday, and he was telling me that that particular building had no safety exits for people. That for buildings like that, there should be some sort of a staircase that leads outside, away from the lift area, away from the main entrance. There has to be other exits, for people to make use of when things like this unfortunately happens. But then again, it also begs the question about building regulations in Nigeria. The people that go ahead to build these buildings, are they aware? Are they doing their job to ensure that that people who build buildings do so with the right procedure and up to the required standard for safety measures to be put in place? That's a question. When they do that, then you know that that part of the job is done.
Okay.
The next process will now be reinforcing the fact that they need to conduct these drills. There have to be simulations here and there, because you cannot rule out the fact that these situations, though we don't like them, though we don't pray for them, they can happen. And when they happen, what is the procedure like? What can they do? What we saw at Afriland Towers on that day was chaos, was absolute disregard for the rules of engagement when it comes to fire incidents and the procedure for safety and exit. It was totally thrown out of the window. Well, yeah.
So, Israel, my question now will be in terms of what caused the fire. It was mentioned that, they had inverters in the basement of the Afriland building that had other, businesses in the building. And then there was another lady in your report who mentioned that she had told the people in the Mandela's complex to bring their generator down. But I'm a bit confused. If the first fire started at the basement where they wanted all the generators to be, and then the other fire, we're not so sure if it started from, right up where it did start up, so maybe let's say the generator up. Would you say it was the generator or the fact that Balogun Market, the buildings are so close together, literally you need to pass through a needle eye to get to the other store? So would you say it's the fact that there are no ventilation? What would you say was the cause of this?
Unfortunately, I think we're going to try and reconnect with Ife. We seem to have lost that connection.
Yes.
Hopefully he heard that question, but that's a very interesting question, Queen.
Yes.
I'll say. Because when you look at the first instance, the fire started below.
The basement.
The basement.
Yeah.
So that's where we're being advised to have, our power sources.
Exactly.
If you're going to use generators, they should be brought down.
And it was even inverters as well.
The authority said from there. But then we also have the case where, it was at the top and it's still the same thing. So really, what's responsible is it's the positioning of power source, or are there other factors like you have noted,
yes,
buildings being close together? And you asked me earlier whether I'd been to Balogun. Of course I'd been to Balogun.
Neither was I.
I think it's a very interesting part of Lagos, but I don't think that there was much town planning put into perspective. I think we have Israel back. Israel, if you're about, I hope you heard Queen's question from before. Did you?
Yes, I did. Can you hear me, Mazina?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so for Queen's question, so I was trying to respond saying that at this point in time, investigations are still ongoing as to determine the exact cause of the fire on Lagos Island, talking about the market that got burnt, the stores and the shops that got burnt at the Central Plaza. But for the Afriland Towers, it's already concluded it was due to a faulty inverter that was installed at the basement of the building. It malfunctioned, and that was what resulted into what we saw at Afriland Towers. That inverter was at the basement, yes. So, but for the Central Plaza fire that engulfed over 200 shops, according to the people on the ground, they said that it was due to a faulty, some sort of power surge. That was what caused the fire. But I spoke to the special advisor to the Lagos State governor on Central Business Districts, Bola Olumebo. What she said was that the cause of the fire was as a result of generators being used on upper floors of those plazas. I asked her again, is she sure about this? And she said yes, that this is what caused the fires, and that they have gone ahead to serve them notices that for any shop owner, anyone with any sort of business around that vicinity, the center of business district, your generator should be placed on the ground floor, so there will be no risk of any fire happening at any floor of the building. But this is what she said to us. Yeah.
Israel, real quick, we have to take the news at the top of the hour, but I don't want to let you leave without addressing something that happened. We also viral video of you getting assaulted by a gentleman. I wanted you to first off give us your reaction to what had happened, and I'm asking whether you have seen his post it's on social media where he mentioned that he was going through grief. So what's your take on that?
Well, it's been a roller coaster week for us here at News Central. The reporters always out on the field, so sometimes it takes time for us to process some of these things. Yes, I have been, my attention has been drawn to the fact that there has been some sort of apology video made by the gentleman. Well, is he even a gentleman? So yeah, so I have seen that, but have I been able to process it? No, I haven't, because I'm still traumatized. I mean, we're just trying to do our job, and just the way I'm here right now, it's a studio environment, it's a studio setting, so we didn't even see this man, launch into us like that. My cameraman didn't even know what's going on. What we just saw, we were already live. We're trying to go live on the news at 9, and that was exactly what we saw. So I've not been able to process that. I'm still trying to. I'm traumatized, really, because it begs the question. I mean, how do we educate these people to know that, to let them understand that the journalist is just there to do their job and to help you. We understand that they may be going through some sort of grief.
Not the point I would have preferred the networks to give up on us, but unfortunately, well, if you can hear us, first of all, I'd say that you go through that process, that you take that in, and then hopefully, maybe we'll have a situation where we could have that conversation on, with much time on our hands. Yes. But thank you very much for bringing us the report, and also thank you very much for joining us here on Breakfast Extra to give us details, first-hand experience of what didn't make that report, and also your feelings regarding the instance that transpired there between you and the gentleman. Now, let's take a break because we have the news coming up. Queen Celestine is ready with that one. So stay tuned.
And welcome back. Of course, this is Breakfast Extra, and these are the headline. And we begin with health matters, where the Nigeria Center of Disease Control and Prevention has confirmed that there is no case of Ebola virus in Nigeria, urging citizens to be cautious. The center, in its public advisory issued on Friday, noted that there were 2 recent suspected cases of viral hemorrhagic fever in Abuja, but both tested negative for Ebola and Marburg viruses. Ebola virus disease, formerly known as Ebola hemorrhagic fever, is a severe, often deadly disease caused by the Ebola virus, with a fatality rate of 25 to 90%. The NCDC commended the action of the travelers and urged all Nigerians to emulate the same. Also, the Federal Capital Territory Administration has allayed the fears of residents, but warned them to be cautious.
There's been a lot of unverified information going around about the possible presence of Ebola in our community. This is not the first case or the first suspected case we have had this year, but due to an effective and efficient surveillance system put in by the administration of Barrister Yeltsin Wike, we have been able to follow the protocols like every other state, even doing better than every other state. And I hereby officially announce that she is negative for Ebola and negative for Marburg disease.
President Bola Tinubu has visited the family of late former President Muhammadu Buhari in Kaduna State. The president, in company of other top officials, was received by the widow of the late leader, Aisha Buhari, on behalf of her children. Earlier, President Tinubu attended the wedding of Nasiruddin Yari, son of former Zamfara Governor Abdulaziz Yari, and Sefiya Idris, held at the Sultan Bello Mosque. The visit reflects President Tinubu's solidarity with the Buhari family and respect for his predecessor's legacy.
Nigerians, I thank your administration. I thank every one of you, most especially your wife, the governor's wives, the minister's wives, speaker's wives, House of Representatives members, the Senate President's wife and the Senator's wives in general, and the service chief's wives for being with me when we really needed, a shoulder to lean on.
It is a day that we have a joy for our son and daughter getting married around you here. And it's that I believe we should pay you a courtesy call. We thank you and your family for the befitting effort of money and recognition you've given to late Muhammadu Buhari.
In talking politics, the Rivers State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, has resumed duty at the Government House in Port Harcourt following the end of the 6-month emergency rule. The governor promises to address the state by 6 p.m. on Friday. Fubara had arrived earlier at Port Harcourt International Airport, Omagwa, at 11:40 a.m., accompanied by his wife, the deputy, chief of staff, and others. He was received by his former commissioners, local government chairmen, and other leaders of the state. The emergency rule imposed on March the 18th, 2025, followed a political crisis between the executive and legislative arms of government, which made it hard to approve budgets and run the state. And away from politics, the federal government has established a new communication channel aimed at addressing concerns arising from demolished properties in Okwaja area to pave the way for the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. These comes as the government began formal engagements with diaspora investors affected by the controversial demolition of the $250 million Wynn Homes estate in Okwaja area of Lagos State. The stakeholders who demanded an independent valuation of the demolished properties and full compensation for affected investors equally asked for the establishment of a diaspora investment protection desk within key government ministries.
Nigerians in diaspora have been the silent engine of our nation's growth, sending billions of dollars in remittance each year, investing in homes, businesses, and industries.
If someone have told me today that we'll be singing praises to the Minister of Works, I would have called it a lie. But today, we mark just the opening of the dialogue. We mark a turning point in Nigeria investment narratives.
We have come out and been amongst the people that invested. We've also spoken out when our investments got demolished. And we want to thank the federal public for now.
And away from Nigeria, Malawi's ruling party has claimed that it had discovered irregularities in the vote count in nearly half the country's district after this week's elections, while police announced the arrest of 8 data clerks for allegedly tampering with results. The 2019 presidential election was nullified because of widespread irregularities, and officials in the largely poor southern African countries want to avoid a similar scenario after Tuesday's general elections. Both President Lazarus Chakwera's Malawi Congress Party and its main rival, the Democratic Progressive Party of former President Peter Mutharika, claim to have won the presidential vote. But observers said the indications were that Chakwera, 70, had lost his bid for a second term, with the economy in tatters and cost of living soaring during his first 5 years. The Malawi Electoral Commission released its first results on Friday, with the tallies from 3 out of 4 councils showing a strong lead for 85-year-old Mutharika. And that's all for the headlines within Breakfast Extra. Do stay tuned for more news. We'll be right back.
Welcome again, second hour here for Breakfast Extra. Now, September is World Suicide Prevention Month, and here in Nigeria, the numbers are sobering. The World Health Organization estimates that nearly 16,000 Nigerians die by suicide each year, with many more attempts going unreported because of stigma, and until recently, even the criminalization of attempted suicide. The Nigerian government has tried to respond, with the National Suicide Prevention Framework launched last year and the Mental Health Act now on the books. But the real questions are, is therapy accessible? Is it affordable? And do people even feel safe enough to seek help?
And we've seen tragic cases from university students overwhelmed by academic and financial pressures, to farmers facing economic hardship, to celebrities who struggled silently. Beyond the statistics are real people, real families, and real loss. So, can therapy and awareness campaigns actually turn the tide? Or do we need a deeper cultural shift in how we talk about mental health? Let's welcome our guest therapist, Akinosho Samson, to walk us through this. Hello.
Hello.
Which would you prefer, Samson or Akinosho?
Sam.
Sam.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sam.
Thank you.
Hello.
Oh, thank you very much, Sam. How bad is it in Nigeria when it comes to suicide?
It's really bad. In fact, I was going to make an adjustment to the number you quoted.
Please.
It's now 17,000.
7.
So 1,000
yeah, and those are even the reported cases. There are some that don't even get mentioned because of the stigma and the cultural, implication of saying something like that. That, the chief murdered himself or unalived himself in that way. So those things are not reported. So a lot is happening underground than what is being reported on the surface.
So you say that it is the stigma that is making people not come out.
Stigma
to say.
majorly, and like we rightly said also, the criminalization of that act now, because it has stories of someone trying to kill himself, the one that trended recently, the guy trying to jump, and they came upon him and beat him and all of that. So those things are part of the problem that we're facing.
So I think some people will say that therapy is expensive, so they'd rather just,
Ask the therapist. We have one here. Don't ask me.
But I'm going to say before the word expensive is even considered. That's the so before we have the conversation around it being accessible and expensive, is it being considered by majority of the people? Because we'd rather, God forbid, it away, or it is well it away in this, but or just slap it away or create a meme out of it. The way we're doing it.
There's also the fact that people don't even recognize that they're going through issues and that they need help.
Right.
So how come as Nigerians, Africans, we are not aware that, okay, this has passed, be careful. Now I need help. I need to. When should one know that? Okay, I think it's about time to talk to someone professional.
Yeah. So that's a very good question. Thanks for that. I like to say that normal in this our dispensation is a myth. There is nothing normal about the way we've been living for the longest time. Yeah. So there is nothing. One of the things how you know that is we greet ourselves with suspicion. I suspect you first before even trusting you. It's coming from somewhere. It's the way the economy has been built.
Are you fine?
Sorry about that. I'm just saying. And you know that you meet an artisan and they give you a price, and you know somewhere inside of it there's a programming to counter what that person says in that moment. So there is nothing. So understanding that the way we've lived for the longest time, though it may seem normal, if you've been walking upside down and they create a shoe for your head, then you think that's normal. No, but you're walking upside down regardless. So knowing that the way we live as Nigerians, majorly as Africans, there is a lot wrong with us, but we've accepted. We've sat back and we say that this is the way this has been done. In fact, we've created doctrines out of these things, cultures out of these things. We've created a way of life out of these things. So we have to live around these things. So we have to go back to questioning, why is this like this? And in questioning and self-introspection like that, you will get answers. You will shock yourself. You'll be shocked by the answers. You will find that there's nothing normal about the way.
I can assure this is becoming very interesting. Or Sam. Very interesting. I want us to take a break because first of all, we have to walk our heads through that analogy you gave about the shoe on your head. So let's take
I'm already thinking what size mine will be.
What size would your head be? Well, let's take a short break. It's a very important conversation here. World Prevention Month is this month, September, and we have a therapist in the studio here to walk us through these things. There are many questions that we have, but let's do this short break, and when we come back, we'll go right into them. Back, we're still discussing suicide prevention. It's World Suicide Prevention Month for September, and we have with us in the studio a therapist, Akinosho Sam. He wants us to call him Sam. Sam, thank you very much. Now, I must say that a lot of conversation happened while the camera was not on us. We will not reveal all of it, but it's very interesting because you said everybody has a measure of mental instability.
Yes.
And you told that we need to self-evaluate, introspect.
Yeah.
But it's not a culture that we are, you know,
accustomed
to. She spoke about the fact that therapy is expensive. And for me, that's a big problem because I know firsthand how much therapy costs. And it's not easy. So if everybody, whether irregardless of your class, goes through these mental issues, it's more accessible to people who have the means then. So it's like a big man ailment. If you're poor, you can't afford to be mentally unstable. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
So how can we bridge that?
So, and that's because we're tackling it from when you look for solution when things get really bad, then people who handle the space of healing can charge according to their profession and the education they've gotten. We have to find a way to include these things in our basic programs like schools, secondary schools, universities, have like a symposium where we can talk about mental health. In that way, we can then talk about it to a larger body than just individual therapy. So you are right, individual therapy is expensive because you have to sit through with a professional that has gone through the rudiment of being the therapist or a counselor in this case, and they will charge accordingly. But then that's why we're asking that if there are systems where a lot of people can access it at a time, ask questions in a forum or in a symposium gathering, then people can get better.
So would you say there are levels to the trauma in terms of how people choose to either, you know, have mental illness or suicide? Would you say there are primary stages and all that? Does it grow in terms of...
I don't like to do that grading because of the peculiarity of somebody might be going through something that seems so inconsequential to you and you're wondering why are you going through this, but it's that person's life and it's affecting that person as much as your own issues are, affecting you. So there is no grading. But we just need to understand that individually, we are going through some measure of...
So my next question now would be, how can someone identify and say, you know what, I need a therapist? Because some people, you know, they might be going through stuff and somebody else will say and say, this person is not all right. And the person will say, oh, I'm fine.
You know, another thing is, how can you, that person who's noticing, observing...
to say, you know what, I need to go to a therapist. So how do that person get to a point to say, you know what, I don't think how I'm feeling or what I'm thinking is okay? How are there behaviors before they get to that thought?
Yeah, so by the time you're spotting behaviors, it's already too late. I need to tell yourself, if you live in Nigeria, if you live in Africa, the rest of the world, you need therapy. Let's not go through the process of self-diagnosing and say, oh, okay, let me wait for this, because when it gets there, it's already extreme. In fact, when people come to me and say, well, I think I'm fine, I say there's something called preventive therapy. Unpacking the things you've gone through. Some people struggle with rejection and they don't even know it. You might handle rejection a different way. Somebody else handles it with so much, you know, feeling and emotions in that way. So there's preventive therapy, just going through everything you've gone through as a child, your experiences, sitting with someone to say, I went through this. What do you think about this? And you know, that atmosphere of introspection.
How does that help? How does me telling someone, revealing to them the details of my trauma help? It's because I'm a very experiential type of person. And I'm wondering where or how talking to someone can, and I'm sure I'm asking this for a lot of people out there as well, how just talking to someone can actually relieve you of mental issues.
It's like walking into a doctor's office and then you just say, oh, doctor, I'm not feeling fine. Then the next question becomes, what are the symptoms? What are you going through? I always say that sitting with someone is a diagnosis, and the strength of any prescription is in the accuracy of the diagnosis in that case. So that sitting together, that's us unpacking it, trying to diagnose that this might be wrong, this might be wrong. So it helps in that way. So a lot of people have that question, so they come into my DM and say, how does it help just to talk? But so in talking, I can pick things from you. You can say something, I can read the pattern.
And what would you do with the information I give?
So my training allows me to tie, from your colloquialism, I can tie patterns and say, this is this. You are so vocal with rejection. So recently I had someone that has the ear bin. And then she listed everything that has been wrong. And I said that this is negatively twisted. Yeah, that when people ask you, as Nigerians, we sort of receive some trophy explaining our challenges. Yeah. From that alone, I can tell something is wrong. That your view of life is more negative than positive. Wow. Yes. You see, as simple as that is, then I can tell that something needs to be done. And I told the person, change your language. Then I asked that what has been working. And then she had a lot to say. But you see that cognitive reframing to focus on what has been working. That's the difference.
Sorry, Queen, but Sam, something very interesting just crossed my mind.
Yes.
And it's the matter of privacy.
Okay.
I'm here telling you, I'm bleeding out to you. I'm giving you my guts. I just tore open my intestine, and
Your
I'm like,
soul.
this is me. My soul, things I wouldn't tell another person.
Yeah.
How sure am I that that information is safe? So that's another consideration people have. How would it tell person? Why will I tell you?
Yeah, that person is going through.
I don't even know him.
Yes. So in the way I do the work, there are ethical guidelines, of course, to confidentiality. Yeah. But I tell my clients that solutions, can be shared. Your story will not be shared. And if it has to be shared, it has to be with your permission.
Right.
That so therapy is that space where it's safe. Yeah, but if it has to get out there, maybe people are going through this, because I make contents too, just to get across to people. I tell them that solutions discussed here can be, but you would never say that, there's a certain person living here and going through this. It will hurt you to see your story out there. Yeah, so that's part of what I do too.
So as a therapist, having therapy sessions for people, how do you, I don't think I wouldn't say you absorb it. How do you live it? Because I know that, hearing people's story and, seeing what they're going through can be depressing.
Yeah.
So how are you? How do you cope as a therapist with
Which is a very good question. First off, I like to say that every therapist has a therapist.
Yeah. That was right in my head when I said it.
Yes, every therapist has a therapist. You should have, but there are detachment styles or skills that you learn as a therapist, not to carry on the burden of your clients in that way. It's like the way a very good actor would be in character, and they can take that character with them to the home. Yeah, so you have to find ways to... so I have people say that, I go to the beach to just go scream before going to the house. I call someone, I call my friend, and be like, it's been a lot, it's been overwhelming, and then we can talk through some of these things. And then I have a therapist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I actually know what you're talking about there. That weight of carrying somebody of concern for another person.
Yes.
So recently, I met a person who was going through so much. But I had to say to her, I'm so sorry, at this time, I cannot carry the burden of concern for you. Because I was also going through so much. And to add another person, and the more people you know, the more you are obligated to want to check up on them or be concerned for them. Like, how are you? It's like breakfast radio or television, actually. You hear so much doom and gloom, you begin to dread life itself.
Yeah.
So I think even you and I need a therapist for hosting such a show, because it's always about bad news. That's what actually gets the buzz. And we have to talk about it every single time. People don't know that for people like us who have to be here every single day talking about these things, it also affects us as well.
Yeah.
Because all we can think about is how bad Nigeria is going, who died yesterday, where the world is going. There's always such bad news. So professionally, for professionals, how do we manage these kinds of stressors?
Yeah, like I said the other time, you have to find the detachments.
Let me rephrase. What commitments do the establishment that these professionals work for, what obligation do they have on these individuals in terms of their well-being mentally?
Yes. So part of the HMO packages that people have these days, therapy should be included in that. Other systems have in-house therapist or counselor with the company or the organization that people defer to, not just the HR, they just go to them and say, this is how I've been doing, these are the things I've been going through. So every establishment and organization should imbibe that as a necessary department now for their members. And you said something really interesting about the work that you do, because eventually these things lose the strength of shock over you, because you've heard so many deaths.
Desensitized.
And that's not normal.
Yeah,
that's not.
I'll tell you something. For anybody who works on radio, this is actually times 3 the effect you get even from TV. Here, you guys can talk about it. But radio, where you have that absence of that visual, you have to create pictures in people's minds. So telling those stories is very, very inimical to your job, and you must tell it well to the grainiest perspective. Now, knowing all that detail and giving it to people, when the mics come on, you view like a human being, but when they go off, it's depressing. It's a roller coaster. It's a big roller coaster.
You're right. I moved from a different industry entirely.
She abides by a different kind of culture.
Into years. So I think my coping mechanism would be I'm always laughing and, joking and stuff. But I would say, starting reading news on TV, I find out that the conversations I have with my sister changed.
Yeah, it will.
I was lamenting.
There.
I was screaming, and then one day I was coming back from work and I was crying and I was being grateful because I'm like, okay, I'm not in the area where there's flood. So there's so many things. So that brings my question to, so for people who are not able to find comfort, so people who are in the gutters, the people who are affected by the flood, the disease, all the things we're reporting, and it's always them. How? It's to them, it's like what we're saying is not making sense because there's really nothing, there's nothing to come out to see. There's no green, there's nothing to come, there's no hope. So how do they find hope? How do they remove those thoughts out of their mind?
Because as a therapist, it's not like as if you're giving them actual solutions to the floods, to this and that.
So it's more like changing their mindset.
Exactly, which is what I was going to say, that it starts with changing the way you view that particular situation. What causes us a lot of times is the hopelessness and the cluelessness as to the next step to take concerning a certain matter. Yeah, so if you can sit with someone that can walk you through, this is also possible. You know the way we say in where I come from, that Onokon Woja means that there are many streams. So there are many ways to the market. Yeah, just to sit, because when somebody is going through something, they are boxed into that reality.
Right.
You on the outside can then create, because all they know in that moment, what their reality is everything going on with them.
Right.
So somebody else can then say that, yeah, I get that you are boxed up right now in this, but this is a way out of this.
Right.
This can be a way to go, this can be a way to go, and all that, yeah.
I got another, go ahead. We're both excited about
I know,
the topic.
right? So I think my question now would be, is there a time frame as to the healing or the mindset change? Because I know someone who has been stuck in a particular bubble. And like you said, it got to a point, I don't know how to help. You had so many dreams, and then of course it didn't work out. It's life. You probably wanted to be a superstar, and then you're probably frying a car or something.
Yeah.
So this
Beauty
person
pageants to TV host.
This is still amazing. But this person had a dream of playing football.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people. So this particular person had a dream of playing football, and then it did not work out, like literally, and he has been stuck there. We're talking 20 years now.
Wow, that's a long time.
How long do you think it would take for this person to heal? Because it's like everybody has done all the talking they can do. And where you're like, if you had done this when we said this, if you had done this. So now everybody's like, you know what, we're going to leave you because you are not making us feel like we're not doing enough. So how else can we help this person change their mindset?
So in therapy, I don't like to talk about timelines, that it gets to a certain level and this. No, we don't even say that. We don't say healing in that way, complete healing. We say you are in recovery for the rest of your life. That's where relapse come from. Yeah, so people relapse because if the healing was permanent, then there won't be any relapse in the future.
Right.
Yeah, so I always say that you also have to give yourself grace and compassion for as long as you went through it, give yourself the same time. If someone has held a dream for 20 years, it's not something you can convince the person that, okay, this didn't happen, then let's just switch to something else. You have to give them that measure of time too to go through all of these things one day at a time. Yeah, it's a gradual process, one conversation, one different thing to do at this point, just introducing a certain system, operating system to the mind, that this happened to you, well, this is it. And you know what I said before, that a lot of what I do is cognitive reframing. Just trying to change your mind because that's your operating system. Once you change the mind about something, the rest is good. The person will leave out the expression in reality.
Right.
Very interesting. Let me point to this moment right now. First of all, there's a certain clarity and reassurance in your voice when you speak, and I love that as a therapist. And as a testament, normally when we're on air, we have the producers talking to us constantly. They've said nothing throughout this session, which means that they are actually, quite engrossed in the conversation as well. They're very engrossed in it as well. Aren't you guys? Yes, you are. They all are. But now, to this question here, and it's going to hit hard on some people, how much does tradition, culture, and religion how much of a factor do they play in people's mental states? Because we're boxed in so much, you have everything happening to you in the environment, and then you now have limitations when it comes to culture, family tradition, and especially religion. And in Nigeria, we're very religious people.
Yes.
And sometimes that takes a toll on your mentality. Oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not good enough for God, or oh, they see me so and so way because I have certain proclivities. So how much of...
And that's a very good question.
We ask good questions.
Yeah. So I always say that, I said to someone recently that anytime you prescribe deliverance to something that should clearly go into therapy, or someone that should go to therapy, you're being wicked. Yeah, and that's how we've created a system where people can grab onto false hope and say that, oh, God is going to do it. I know God is, I'm a believer myself. Yeah, but there are things to go through. There are people trained to help you go through the work of your mental wellness and all of that. And I always say that not all pastors, like the way we do here, or imam, you grab the mic and just yell out and all that. You know, somebody said really vocally on TV that if depression is the work of the enemy, and that's a lie.
Oh, wow.
No, it's not the work of the enemy. Yeah, it's just the way we found, because what you don't understand, your mind will find a rationale for it. You'll find definitions to suit, you know, your own understanding and experience of that thing. So yeah, it's a big problem. And tradition caused this problem. Yeah, because we found a way to, the stigma around it. Yeah. How would you say that this happened to our dad? Our dad is, I had that experience, watch my dad come back from work, sit down and stare into the ceiling for a long time. Yeah, and occasionally we let out a deep sigh. I didn't know the effect of that, and I became an adult myself, sit by the edge of my bed and let out a big sigh. And I remembered, yeah. So that silence has been taught over time. It wasn't actively taught. It didn't tell me to be quiet.
Say that again. That silence has been taught.
Yeah.
And passed down.
Yes.
For generations.
Yes. It didn't sit me down to say you should be silent, but I watched him go through everything and look into the ceiling and come back and go and go back there. And then I borrowed that. Yeah. And then you can also pinpoint things that you borrowed along the journey just to cope and go through life, and they are all gone. Sorry. So sorry.
It's the first time I have no questions, because it's very eye-opening even for me as a person sitting down here hearing all of this. I've had situations in my life, and I've always wondered where help could come from. You know, so I've had certain ideations personally as well, but I'm glad that I overcame that.
Oh yeah.
I'm wondering how many people who walk these halls who look normal.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Are going through the same. You know, I don't know if Tony, the director, is going through anything. I don't know if Maeva is going through anything. But it's a very important conversation to have, and I'm glad that we had you here to have this conversation.
And
thank you very much, Sam.
It's good. I think I always say something that, you know, if you don't know something, then pay the professionals to do it. So I think we have to add a therapist to our...
Oh, you are our Breakfast Extra therapist at this point.
Glad.
Thank you very much, Sam.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much. This was mind-blowing, and, you know... I'll keep it. I'll keep it.
Let's let Sam go, because we have other conversation, and we hope that you learned a thing or two from that segment. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. It's Breakfast Extra.
And welcome back. This is another big story in Breakfast Extra. Earlier this week, the Department of State Services, DSS, filed a 5-count charge against activist and publisher Omoyele Sowore, accusing him of using his social media platforms to defame President Bola Tinubu by calling him a criminal. The suit names Sowore, Meta, owners of Facebook, and X-Corp, alleges that his posts are false, malicious, and capable of inciting public disorder. The DSS claims Sowore's violated provisions of the Cybercrimes Prohibition, Prevention, and ETC Amendment Act 2024.
But in response, Sowore has countersued the DSS, Meta, and X, claiming that their demands to delete his post amounts to unconstitutional censorship, a breach of Section 39 of Nigeria's Constitution, freedom of expression. His legal team argues it's not just about his comments, but about a wider danger. State agencies exerting control over what can be said online. This tension pits the law, especially recent laws on cybercrime and hate speech, against civil liberties, public criticism, and, well, precedent. Does describing the president in strong terms cross legal lines of defamation or false statements? Or is it protected political speech, even if uncomfortable for those in power? Instances of legal friction over speech in Nigeria are, well, not new. We've had so many of them in the past. Prominent figures have faced defamation, libel, or sedition charges over statements critical of the government. In many cases, authorities have acted on complaints to social media platforms on leveraged laws, ambiguously written to hold activists to account. Critics say this pattern reflects systemic issues. Thus, there have been calls for civil society and legal experts for clearer guidelines, restraint from law enforcement, and stronger protection of free speech so that criticisms of government does not become criminalized.
So let's welcome our guest to take us through the specifics. We have Ashok Philip, who's the National Organizing Secretary of the African Action Congress, AAC. We have Todimu Ige, a lawyer based in Lagos, and Abdulkarim Musa, Showere's lawyer. Gentlemen, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
So I think I'd like to start with Mr. Todimu, who is here with us in the studio. So Mr. Todimu, let's talk about the Cybercrime Amendment Act of 2024. It says that, are we going to say that, what does it exactly say? And does Showere's post clearly violate that section? And if so, how?
Now, the provisions of the Act have stated that if you make a statement that tends to put the other party in a bad light, particularly if the statement is false, and the intent of that statement is to incite reasonable persons or the society against the person, then you have crossed the line. Now, if you look at the speech by Showore labeling the president as a criminal, the president has not been convicted as of today by any law within the definition of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Right.
And now, if we say that the president has not been found guilty by any competent court in Nigeria, his statement is saying that the president is a criminal. You would see that if he can corroborate or substantiate that, then we would say that he is right. But if he is unable to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the president has been convicted, that it's not about, it's an opinion. And your opinion must be very clear not to incite the public against the other party. So, if you look at it, if you juxtapose the position of the law and his statement, then you will see that clearly there is a form of infringement.
I'd like to take Mr. Abdulkarim Musa's take on that same question. Abdulkarim, are you with us? Can you please, let's have your take on that question. Go on, Abdulkarim.
Yeah, are you with me?
Yes, we are. Go ahead.
I've consistently maintained that statements made by persons on matters of public interest, particularly as it regards with regards to political office holders, cannot be taken in light of the definition that my colleague just gave as to defamation. If a Nigerian makes a statement concerning issues that are of public interest and with the intention of scrutinizing the action or the statement or the policies of government, such statement cannot fall within the confines of defamation. And if we may, examine this issue even deeper, the prosecution of Mr. Showore on the alleged offense of defamation does not take cognizance of the provisions of the Constitution, which is the highest law of the land. Because in your interpretation of whatever law you are deriving the offense of defamation from, you must give due credence to the Constitution. For in Section 1 of the Constitution provides that if any law is inconsistent with the provision of the Constitution shall prevail, and that other law shall, to the extent of its inconsistency, be null and void. The Constitution is not just a document, it has a spirit, that is the essence. It has the values upon which the Constitution was made. And any law, in interpreting or construing the provision of any law, those values must be taken into consideration. So if any law, like the Cybercrimes Act, if Mr. Showore is said to have contravened any law, in interpreting that law, the Cyber Crimes Act, whatever agency is prosecuting him ought to take cognizance of the provisions of the Constitution, whether or not the alleged offense of defamation is consistent with the provision of Section 39 of the Constitution, which provides that Nigerians have the freedom to express themselves and hold opinion.
So, Mr. Abdul Karim, I wanted to know, where do you stand on the details of the Cyber Crimes Act? Do you stand on the side where it's a proper document, or do you think that it's infringing on people's rights, especially when they have to express on social media, which could be considered as publishing information?
Yes, I have consistently maintained the position that the Nigerian law enforcement agents have engaged and utilized the Cyber Crimes Act to muzzle Nigerians into being unable to speak. Just like I said earlier, they are not interpreting, construing, and applying the Cyber Crimes Act in line with the provision of the Constitution. They are not interpreting and applying the Cyber Crimes Act in line with the spirit, the values of the Constitution. The Cyber Crimes Act, the origin of the Cyber Crimes Act of 2015 was when Nigeria started becoming noted for offenses, internet crimes, offenses that relate to social media and all that, and it began to give Nigeria a bad name even in the international community. There was a need to enact a law that would curtail the practices of maybe people defrauding other people, people hacking people's account online, and that was the idea. Though there are a little bit of provisions in the Cyber Crimes Act that deals with making comments and all that, but the way the law enforcement agents in Nigeria are utilizing the law now is to oppress and repress free speech. If anybody makes a statement that seems to offend any political office holder or the who is who, then the Cyber Crimes Act is engaged to prosecute these people. That is an abuse of the essence of the Cyber Crimes Act. For every law, there are mischiefs for which laws are meant to curtail. There are mischiefs for which laws are meant to cure. But the way the Cyber Crimes Act is being utilized, it does not show that the law enforcement agent really understand the essence of this act.
All right, let's come to Mr. Oshoks now. I have so many legal questions to ask the two lawyers that we have here, especially seeing that you both have very slight differences. But let's ask Mr. Oshoks. Regarding particularly, well, when it comes to speaking, when it comes to political dissent, what hope do we have for people who have varying opinion from governance, especially when it comes to the aspects of publishing thought or opinion on social media?
Yes, thank you for having me. The issue goes beyond Omoyele Sowore as a decent voice, as a voice of the voiceless in Nigeria. It directly speaks to the health of our democracy. You know, when citizens begin to speak up against misrule, corruption, against all forms of injustices, then that should not be classified as hate speech. Rather, they should be applauded for doing so. And this is what every, discerning democracy should embrace, You cannot begin to criminalize criticism or label dissenting voices like that of Omoyele Sowore to say he's committing an offense, So for some of us, we feel and we know that Omoyele Sowore is somebody who has always spoken truth to power. And in this instance, he's doing the same thing. And we know his precedents, we know where he's coming from, we know he's been into this for over 30 years and counting. And he has always, stood on the path of truth, on the path of justice, and on the path of growth for the country, So putting these cases to, gag him like he's committing a heinous crime, we believe that is just a way for the government to try, stifle the civic space. And this is where some of us are, crying out to say, no, this is uncalled for. The government should retrace her steps and then do the needful. And then, the The biggest form of national security right now is weaponizing security agencies like DSS to go after dissent voices who tries to speak truth to power. And Omorede Sowore is one of these voices who has consistently and unapologetically spoken truth to power without fear or favor, regardless of who else is God. And this is our stand, this is our position. It is not a crime to call a thief a thief.
Right.
Wow.
So, Mr. Todimu, let me ask you now, can you tell us about, the countersuit by Sowore for the constitutional right violation? What is the scope and the strength of the argument?
Well, like his lawyer mentioned earlier, that Section 39, what Section 39 of the Constitution of Federal Government of Nigeria says is about, it talks about freedom of expression. Now, freedom of expression means that you could express how you feel. But there is a borderline when you begin to say what is false, when you begin to cast aspersion on the other person.
As false is subjective.
Yes. Now, I give an earlier interpretation that, yes, false is subjective. What is the test? Is there any competent court of jurisdiction that has pronounced the president as a criminal? That's the test. If there is any, anybody could accuse anyone of any crime. And Nigeria, the law is very clear. The Constitution says that anyone is free, or everybody is innocent until proven guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction. And that is what is lacking here. Nobody is, of course, I'm a strong proponent of saying that, yes, Nigerians need to speak up. Nigerians need to defend their rights. But we need to be careful about the language. Two wrongs don't make a right. If you are going to be given an expression, of course you can speak clearly against the activities of the government. But we need to ensure that whatever we are doing is in line with the provisions of the law. And that is what I'm saying. That yes, the cyber crimes are of course, there are times that the security agencies can be overlapping. They can be, they can be overbearing. But we must be very careful that two wrongs don't make a right. He has said that Section 39 guarantees freedom of expression. Very well. But now what we need to now check, and the test is the president a criminal? Has he been convicted by a court of competent jurisdiction? No, I don't think so.
Now this goes to both you and Abdul Karim. Does the factor that this was published have any toe on the events? If he had simply expressed it, would it have had a different trajectory? Was it because he put it on social media? And what obligations do these social media platforms have? Did they need to acquiesce to the demands of the DSS? Let me start by asking Abdul Karim. Abdul Karim, was publishing that statement the contention? First off, let's start there.
Well, there are several laws that criminalizes making statements even when they are not published. So the publication is not really an issue, because even if it was not published on that platform and it was maybe statements were made in the presence of other Nigerians, they could still find offenses under which they would charge the maker of the statement. But just in line with the other questions that, and in line with the discussion that my colleague just had now, that until a person has been convicted by a court of competent jurisdiction, that I cannot address the person as a criminal or a thief. That is not the law. The law says that every person who has been alleged to have committed an offense shall be presumed to be innocent until proven guilty. It is a presumption, but it doesn't mean that if you enter into my house and you steal my property and I catch you, I will not call you a criminal. If I find my property, you have attempted to dispossess me of my property with the intention of permanently dispossessing me of same, I cannot call you a criminal. So it is a presumption of law.
Abdul Karim, this is presuming. So now what you're making me presume is that Sowore does have facts that lead to him calling the president a criminal. Because if you use the analogy of me walking into your house and you catching me stealing something, then you can call me a criminal. So does Sowore have these facts that have led him to call the president a criminal, is the question.
there are plethora of facts, even known to the Nigerian people, that the president and his cronies are dealing with Nigerians in ways that are unlawful and illegal. There are many situations that we can point to as to how the president has conducted himself unconstitutionally. There is a case of Rivers here where the president imposed a military man there for no justifiable cause. There are cases where the president has been indolent when thousands of Nigerians have been killed, and we can argue that that is complicit. He was complicit in those actions. So that is a different discussion for the courts, for Mr. Sowore to put forth justification for his statement, because justification is a defense to defamation. But the most important thing that I want us to point our attention to is the fact that this matter is not such that should be charged to court. It's not such that a citizen who made a comment following his interest in a public matter should be charged. It is a very dangerous precedent of gagging people from being able to criticize and analyze government. Because if you are subjecting, and I've said it over and over again, that the standard that is imposed on people when they make statements against public office holders or government institutions cannot be the same standard that is imposed upon persons when comments are made against ordinary citizens. So you cannot, if I had made a comment against a businessman or an ordinary Nigerian who did not occupy any political office, who did not run for any political office, who is not tampering with anything that I have or that the Nigerian people have an interest in, then you can say that I have defamed the person or I have defamed that institution. But when somebody put himself forth as the president of Nigeria, or that he is dealing with critical interest of the Nigerian people, you cannot stop me from analyzing and criticizing and even calling him out on issues that I feel
Abdulkarim,
he has not conducted himself properly.
All right, then, Abdulkarim. Let me come back to the studio with Mr. Todimu here. What obligations do the platforms have? Do they have any obligation to comply with the DSS's request for the tweets to be taken down? Did they?
Well, if you look at the platforms, they also say that they protect their community and ensure that people don't use the social media to incite violence, that people don't use their platform to commit crimes. Now, to that extent, they are a body. And of course, over time, the Nigerian government and even governments in other climes have tried to ensure that the social media is not unrestricted, to avoid instances of hate speech, to avoid instances of people inciting violence within their jurisdiction. So to that extent, the DSS does not have the capacity or the power to bring down the post on their own. What they can do is to also, make a case to say, we feel that what has been stated on this post violates your terms and conditions, violates, the tenets of fairness and equity. And to that extent, they can demand or they can request that the post be brought down. So to that extent, I think that the DSS is right, as opposed to, forcefully bringing out the post or forcefully, doing any other. Yes,
taken down.
Very
Okay.
well.
So I think my question will be for Abdulkarim. You mentioned that, the post was also made for the people, so public post for, I'm assuming, for the benefit of the citizens. And you were talking about free speech. So my question would be, where is it written? Is it okay? Is it under the law that, it's okay for the citizens or someone to come out for the citizens to call the president a criminal?
As a representative?
Yes, it is the law. It is enshrined in our law. One of the ways you know laws that are applicable in our jurisdiction is through case laws. If you visit the case of Becky versus Becky in 2012, if you check the Law Pavilion Electronic Law Report, you find where the Court of Appeal of Nigeria held that Nigerians are entitled to make comments on matters of public interest. This includes making comments as to whether or not a public office holder has conducted itself criminally. In such case, if I describe the conduct of a political office holder as criminal, I'm not guilty of defamation.
Okay. Abdul Karim, thank you for being summary in that last submission here. Mr. Oshoks Phillips, please do beg our pardon. We didn't forget you. I was saving this one for you. Now, in America, there seems to be a similar issue where a TV host has been taken off the air. He's been suspended because of remarks that he made regarding comments that Donald Trump made or didn't make. And that has caused him to be taken off air, which has caused people to react, saying that that doesn't seem like freedom of speech. Where's the First Amendment? Here in Nigeria, we're seeing something similar happen. At least that's what people are interpreting it as. So what does that say for my freedom? What does that say for my ability to actually perhaps maybe note something that might be on a dissenting note? What's that saying for all of us, regular people, and our freedom of speech in Nigeria? Mr. Oshoks.
Yes, freedom of speech is not guaranteed by the government. It's a fundamental right. And every dissenting voice has the opportunity to express themselves, especially in situations where they find not palatable as freedoms and as citizens. And in Nigeria, and in the case of Omoyele Sowore and Tinubu, it should be noted that Tinubu is a citizen of Nigeria. And the very day he presented himself to be president of this country, regardless of how he came into power, he becomes, answerable to every Nigerian of repute. So criticizing the president has no way, pushed Sowore off balance or off track. Sowore is still on track. Sowore has been a voice that will continue to speak truth to power. So if any individual who stands today to criticize the president, that person should be applauded, because this is what democracy should be all about. This is how we put the government in check. So social media as a tool to express ourselves should not be gagged for any reason. We see what happened in Nepal. Nigeria should be very careful. Nigeria should be careful how they use instruments of state against social media, against individuals of dissent voices who try to speak truth to power. Because it is Omoyele Sowore today, it will be any Nigerian who decides tomorrow to dare speak truth to power. So all we are saying is, regardless of what has happened in other claims, we are more concerned about what happens within our own geographical space and how we hold government accountable. So Sowore is on track. Sowore has been doing this, and we will not, for any reason, kowtow to any form of intimidation by security agencies that have been bought by the government, who are only bent on doing the biddings of the government. And the government have been able to define hate speech just to suit their own narrative and not what it really is. So for us to speak truth to power and ask everybody who have taken public office to account, that is not hate speech, that is freedom of speech. And that is also, we have the backings of international conventions, just like the African Charter on Human Rights and People's Rights. So we know all where this is coming from. It's just a way to push Omoyele Sowore, who has a very clean slate, gag him. The DSS are just, in Nigeria today as we speak, there are those in government who on daily basis churn out hate speeches, but these people are not even called for questioning. Even the minister today, we see how we come to brandish all sorts of, statements on live television and call all media houses in Nigeria, and they grant him, and people applaud him because he's in government. So when an activist like Omoyele of a reputable status decides to say, this is what I feel about governance, then all, hell will be let loose. All, security agencies are running helter-skelter just to please their paymasters. So this is what we are saying. Freedom of speech is not hate speech. And we must be able to draw that line. And we shall continue to express ourselves to ensure that we hold government accountable any day and at any time. And for all Nigerians and all media houses should continue to do the same. Because even the attempt of gagging Omoyele Sowore is not about him, but about every other Nigerian. So we will not take that. We'll continue to speak truth to power. And Sowore will not, fall into any form of intimidation or allow them gag him in a space where, in short, is equal to the tax. That is what I would say on this.
Thank you very much.
So we are standing on that. And when the government feels dissent voices becomes hate speech, it is not protecting the citizens, but just protecting those in power. And that is where we stand.
Thank you very much for that stance there. Let's talk to the Ige here. I was wondering, the case of Dele Faro to me, was there any lesson to be learned, and how does that apply to what we are seeing here with the case of the DSS and Sowore?
Now, the truth of it is that Nigerians, our rights to freedom of expression is clearly protected in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Section 39. And of course, now where the decision is when not to cross the line. You can be a strong critic of the government. You can express yourself without being abusive, without issuing false statements or hate speech. That's where we must draw the distinction. That freedom of expression, yes, you have a right to do that. And nobody, ordinarily, it must be...
But then an extended question is, shouldn't the government or the DSS or the whatever authority have considered it as a presumption? Because just like you're guilty until you're presumed, what's it called? You're presumed... What's the word again? Innocent until proven guilty. The word presume now is a very critical word here.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it doesn't seem like as if it's being presumed or he's being presumed innocent at this point. It's like I said, why should you have said that? It's no longer a presumption, a case of presumption.
Well, I beg to differ, because if the DSS or the authorities feel that he's guilty, the next thing is they would have arrested him and put him in jail. Yes, presumption. I'm talking about the word presumption that you used. Presumption. They have gone to court to say the court is the arbitral person here. We have come to say that Sowore has defamed the president. He has, of course, I don't think it's hate speech. It's defamation. That's a more suitable language. And now they have gone to court for an interpretation or a pronouncement to say that we are not comfortable with Sowore calling the president a criminal. We feel that is a breach. Now the court will not rule on it. On the other hand, if it wasn't a presumption, they would have arrested him. And
okay. So based on that ground, yes, that's why they're still operating with him being a free person.
Very well. So.
Okay. Yes. Interesting. But you were telling about Dele Faro to me in that case now, and what lessons could have been taken from there and applied here, or were they none at all, or are these two cases absolutely similar?
Well, you will see that in the case of Dele Faro to me, there have been instances that he has been, over time, even before now, the state would ordinarily, when somebody issues, defames the president or speaks against the government of the day, you see that they are picked up, they are arrested and thrown in prison, they are detained for a long time before they are charged to court. But in this instance, they have gone to court before any form of arrest. So it means that we are evolving to resolving these issues more civilly, and of course, because that is our advocation, that the government must not guard freedom of expression, the government must not clamp down on dissent voices. What we must do is we go to court to ensure that these issues are addressed. And of course, we look forward to the declaration of the court. This way, at least, this matter could be settled, and we are very clear as to what the limit of our freedom of expression is.
Interesting.
Right. So, Mr. Oshoks, my question would be, what remedies or safeguards should be put in place, to balance the two competing needs, preventing defamation or incitement, but preserving, robust freedom of speech?
Yes, this engagement should be all-encompassing. We have civil society groups, media platforms. They should all, begin to air out to ensure that even when the government tries to gag individuals who tend to speak truth to power, they should place the government on that, alert to understand that, look, you are crossing the line. It is not all the time that citizens cross the line. Most times the government also cross the line, but who does check the government? Who does checkmate the government? It is civil societies and as well as media platforms. But we can understand how they have gagged every kind of spaces they feel would be a threat to them. And for some of us, we feel, and we are of that very strong opinion, that the government itself should sit and do the rethink to understand that citizens have the right, citizens can always air their views, especially for issues that affect them directly, and not because statements are said and it offends an individual and then instruments of state are deployed to begin to harass and intimidate Nigerians. We must be able to, stop that at this point of our democracy, because for some of us, we feel, weaponizing the security agencies against Nigerians, it is totally wrong and it is uncalled for. Silencing Sowore on an attempt to silence him doesn't even, kill the truth. It doesn't silence the truth. It rather makes it louder. And there are issues that borders us as a nation today that we should be more concerned about. Banditry, kidnapping, and what have you. So many forms of criminality all over the country. Those are where we should channel our resources and the manpower we have, and not weaponizing them to go after individuals who are asking public officers accountable for stewardship. So at that point, this is where we should all converge, all stakeholders, every citizen, even the lawmakers who we believe are also part of the problems of Nigeria today. It is high time they came together to begin to ask questions, to begin to draw the line between hate speech and free speech. For us, this is a free speech. This is a speech said by Omoyele Sowore to express what he feels. They have gone to court, and we employed the DSS to also ask the president to come to court to tell the world how Sowore has defamed him. We believe Sowore has every right to call the president a criminal, as he has alleged the president to be a criminal, and there will be proof to show that, yes, this is why he has made such statement. And he has been able to also sue the DSS as well as other media platforms, not to take down his...
Seems we're having a connecting issue. But thank you so much, gentlemen. Oshoks Philip, Abdul Karim Musa, and of course, Todi Muwige. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning and having to discuss, this situation with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you indeed.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome again. And Rivers State has once again become the theater of Nigeria's most intense political drama. Governor Siminalayi Fubara finds himself at the center of a storm and has refused to calm since he assumed office. From open clashes with his predecessor and now political rival, Nyesom Wike, to the constant tussle with a state assembly where the APP holds 22 of the 23 seats, Fubara's ability to govern has been under constant strain. His conspicuous absence from the recent welcome back ceremony for state lawmakers only added fuel to the fire. However, he did show up a day after. It raised questions about whether he is asserting independence or quietly being sidelined into his own state. At stake is not just Fubara's political survival, but the credibility of Nigeria's federal structure. Can a sitting governor truly exercise the mandate of his office, or will Abuja's shadow always loom large over state politics? The declaration of an emergency rule in Rivers has further inflamed debate. Some insist it is a constitutional necessity for stability, while others, they describe it as a dangerous overreach that undermines democracy. The legality of this move and its precedent for other states remains hotly contested as we speak.
But perhaps most pressing is the will of the people themselves. Where do Rivers citizens stand in all of this? Do they see these battles as elite power struggles detached from their daily struggles, or as defining contests for their democratic future? If emergency rule continues, what does that mean for governance, development, and civil liberties? If it is lifted, can Fubara and his opponents truly reconcile, or is Rivers locked into an endless cycle of instability? These are the urgent questions confronting Rivers today, questions that cut to the heart of Nigeria's democracy. And let's welcome our guests to help us unpack these dynamics. We have Jacob Pele, who's a policy and development analyst, and we also have Mr. Anaps. We also have Mr. Anaps Seraigbe, who is Rivers Elders Council. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I would like to start with Mr. Anaps here. Let's start by asking the big picture regarding the state of emergency. Let's talk about the legality of it. Most people have said that the genesis of all of this is actually ego dressed up as governance that triggered a declaration of emergency rule. But Mr. Anaps, what in your opinion is the true cause of that emergency rule?
Much. My view is that the emergency rule is unconstitutional, illegal, contrary to Section 1, 2, 3, and 4, because the Nigeria Constitution is very clear as to how the state will be governed. how the country will be governed. And they said no other means other than the traditional means should be allowed to rule a government in any party state of the government. The Constitution did not envisage for a state of emergency that will sack governments. In Section 11.4, it was very clear where the Constitution empowered the National Assembly to make laws in the absence of State House Assembly. But the same Section 11.4, the last paragraph, it is very clear that nothing in this section shall empower the National Assembly to make laws that will remove the governor or a deputy governor from office. They relied on Section 305. Section 305 is meant for states like Borno State, Benue State, Plateau State, Zamfara State, and other states where there are security threats. River State was not a security threat at all. So for a president to declare a state of emergency, I think it's absurd. It's not purely legal, it's not constitutional. And if we should rule democratic government like a military dictatorship, then it's unfortunate because Nigeria don't need dictatorship. We don't need any military coup anymore. And if a democratic elected governor will bring in the military to run the government, it's quite unfortunate.
Okay, so now, Mr. Anabs, you've just noted that, or you said, according to you, that it is illegal, but it has happened. Democracy rule has been reinstated. Now, from now on, what do you think might happen in River State? How do you think the exercise of governance is going to go, seeing the dynamic that we currently have here with a council or chairman across the state, 22 local governments, we have 22 of them, the APP, and then just one from another party. What do you think this dynamics means for River State?
Almighty that he has assisted to restore democracy back in River State. I also thank the governor because if not for the type of governor we have, maybe there would have been breakdown of law and order in River State when there was no need for that. And I also thank the regional leaders like Palm Niger Delta Forum, the lawyers, and all Nigerians who came out in full towns to say, look, enough of this, and this is not fair. We thank them immensely. The Rivers people are happy with them. The Rivers people are today happy that we have gotten our governor. The governor we elected is back in the state. Having said that, what I bridges across all stakeholders, including those you call the driveries, because we don't need problem again in River State. The few period, the 6 months was a waste to Rivers people because the Southern Administrator did not do anything. All he came to do was to launch lavish our resources the way he likes without any meaningful development in the state. And that is a big loss to the state. So I believe all the characters involved have learned their lessons. We have all learned lessons from what has happened in the past. So the governor, as he has come back, is a peaceful person. He should continue with his peaceful style of government leadership and ensure that the build bridges, reach out to all the parties involved so that we can get peace and have good governance in the states.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Ekpele, the presidency justified the emergency rule on grounds of security and governance breakdown. What's your take on it?
I think we have moved from crying over the spilled milk to seeing how much we can gather it and have a sweet tea. Whatever they said, they know that they were not absolutely correct. And so the issue of whether there was a breakdown of law and order that necessitated the emergency rule has become history. They know that what they did was unconstitutional. I know that the president has a right to declare the state of emergency, but the elected president has no right to remove an elected government. We've said it times without numbers. So let's move forward. The issue right now is what they have done have further tested the popularity of Siminalayi. and truly and really, the people love him. But what he does with the people is what matters. We've always stood on principle that this fight for democracy is not just about Fubara, it's about the office he occupies. It's about the people of Rivers State. It is about the soul of democracy. It's about the civility that the Rivers man is known for. And that's what we will continue to fight. If he comes and represents the principles of democracy and what the people needs, he will get our support. If he doesn't, there are many of us that will stand up and say no. So it's not a case of who he represents. It's a case of him representing the people. And that's what matters.
Yeah, so Mr. Pele, the governor said yesterday that the president had brokered peace, with all parties, and, they've agreed to bury their hatchet. So now I want to talk about the local government election that happened under the emergency rule. Do you think that will stand or is going to be null and void now that we have Governor Fubara back?
Complication. The distorted judicial structure had cost us is the fact that they based decision on the fact that he did not obey the number of days required before that election will hold. Now we see a repeat performance, even a worse repeat performance in the current situation. What I envisage, which is really, truly what I probably will not pray for, but what I envisage is that there's going to be a myriad of court cases. People will stand up and challenge the legality of this so-called local government election chairman. They were horridly put together. I can tell you for free that we've come of age and we cannot accept whatever anybody imposes on us as Rivers people. We will accept the true principle of justice. We will accept the true principle of democracy. We will accept the will of the people and the morality of every decision, if it is truly moral. So let's see how it plays out. But right now, my focus and the focus of every well-meaning Rivers people is to see that governance will take a course and that the three arms of government will work together in order to move the state forward. We've been taken for granted. Our resources have been drained. People that don't have the right have siphoned our resources. And some of us will stand up and challenge because leadership is all about accountability. And accountability is responsible leadership. And so we will stand up to that. And I dare say that Abbas must be held accountable for what he did and how he spent what he spent. Period.
Mr. Anabs, now I can't help but note that there is a sense of, let's just get on with business. Let's get on back on top of things. There's a sense of optimism with your comments there, and which I appreciate. However, there is also very detailed, nuances to take note of here when it comes to how governance is to proceed. We have joining us in the studio here Cheta Nwanze, who is lead partner at SBM Intelligence. And I'd like to ask you this question, Cheta. Cheta, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us through the odds this morning. Thank you.
I'll send you an invoice because you are responsible.
Well, it's very interesting to see that Rivers people are ready to just get on with it. They spent 6 months and they've called it a waste, according to Mr. Anabs here and Mr. Pele. Nothing's happened when it comes to development. But then again, if governance is all about development and providing for the people, you have to have a handshake between legislative and executive. We have a very interesting dynamic here, especially when it comes to the local government chairman. How will Governor Siminalayi Fubara navigate these waters? And then at the end, what prospects for his future as a politician even?
Thank you for having me. I don't think that Sim Fubara has too many prospects for the long term. Short to medium term, he probably has some prospects. At the end of the day, he's still the executive governor. But one thing that this has shown is that he's not a very strong character. And people would have noted, and they will take advantage of it. He didn't fight for his position, despite the fact that what we saw was constitutional overreach by the president. And I think that's where we have to start from. You can't have sustainable development when people are willing to trample on the set laws of the land. And more importantly, the judiciary just basically sits back and throws its face away. I think that the biggest travesty of the entire saga is the fact that the Supreme Court for 6 months did not hear a case that was brought before it on the legality of this. What has happened is that they've essentially set a precedent which will become a norm going forward. And you will find that a lot of more people will be willing to challenge Mr. Fubara on basically inanities, because they know that he's going to be walking on eggshells for basically the rest of his tenure.
And what does that portend for the state, for governance in the state?
Instability. I mean, if we want to be brutally frank, Rivers has not been known to be the most stable state when it comes to governance. The Rivers State has so many larger-than-life personalities, and at the bottom of this, there's a personality clash. So I see it continuing. I don't see the FCT minister, and it's interesting that he's not being mentioned, but he was one of those that was called for a peace meeting. I don't see him letting go just like that. So you will see these various attempts at personalizing power and more overreach.
Now, thank you for saying that.
So when you say letting go, are you saying that Governor Fubara is just, how do they call it? Will I just say figurehead and is not in charge?
Essentially, he has become a figurehead, yes. If that was the case, before, but it was just implied, now it's clear for everybody to see, and people will act accordingly, even if it's unsaid.
But based on his speech yesterday, he mentioned that, the president had, gracefully had, he had a meeting with all the parties involved.
That's the key thing. The president has gracefully had. It's a democracy. We're not in a monarchy. So why is everybody dancing around the president? We are giving the presidency too much power in our democracy. There are supposed to be 3 arms of government: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. The other 2 failed in their duties in this whole saga. Look at witness the votes in the National Assembly that let the state of emergency pass. There's no record of who voted for what. Despite the fact that there were people who protested loudly, they were overruled. It was a voice vote. That was a failure. I've talked about the judicial failure. So we have given more power to the presidency. This is not about the person of Bola Tinubu. This is about our democracy. You are vesting too many powers in the person of the president, and here's the fact. Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not be president forever, however way you look at it. By 2031 maximum, he's done. So the question we should be asking ourselves, whoever succeeds him, whether it is Mazino, whether it is, no, not you, a woman, whether it is Yahaya Bello, whether it is Kashim Shettima, whether it is Nasser El-Rufai, whoever succeeds him, do you want that person to have all of these powers? These are the questions we should be asking.
There's so much to take away from what you have just said, but first of all, I would like to point out that there have been people who have come back from this kind of instance in the past in Nigerian politics. Ayo Fayose is one of them, Peter Obi is another one, and you can see the level at which they both came back, the furor with which they both came back. But that aside, I want to come to Mr. Jacob Pele here now. Regarding this, the imputes that Cheta has just revealed, he has just told. Like I said from before I asked him that question, there seems to be a sentiment when it comes to people of Rivers State and how they are attending to the issue currently. They want to get it over and done with. Let's just get on with governance. But then these issues have to be taken apart and scrutinized whether you like it or not. This handshake that we speak about between the executive and the legislature, let's bring in the Amaole factor. How do you see the cooperation between these arms going on, well, from now on? Mr. J.K. Pele, please.
Well, you see, anybody and everybody can work together if there is sincerity of purpose. I haven't seen even looking at the optics, that relationship in terms of the executive arm, talking about Governor Fubara, and the legislative the state assembly, if there is, that rapport exists in secrecy. They need to come out in the open and let us know that there is. But there's something that we should carefully observe that is going on. There's a power play, a sort of a vendetta that is likely to play out, which will form a talking point in the future. And that is, who brought Abbas? And whoever brought Abbas, if Mr. Wike was not part of it, there is likely to be not a witch hunt, but an insistence to hold Abbas accountable. That would be the next level of political melodramatic dynamics that will play out. Because now we're getting the feelers where the State Assembly is insisting that they must probe Abbas. If truly and really he was coming from the camp of Wike, I don't think that would have happened. And so there must be somewhere, somehow, a drum that is being played and a masquerade that is dancing in the open. And we will find out as the day unveils.
So, Cheta, I think
now, here's one thing. I'm very philosophical when I make my analysis. Yes, you see, that belongs to the people, and you pocket it. One day, God will set up a scenario and orchestrate a strategy that would make you vomit that money. It doesn't matter how long it takes. And so, like I said, the Rivers people resources have been stolen, siphoned by certain individuals and groups, and they think that we have become the cake that anybody can share and eat and go away. It will not happen. God Almighty, the laws of nature will stand up and fight until every market woman resources, until every student of Rivers State, until every professional of Rivers Indigene, until every old person that would die in a hospital that they would have used this money to equip, to provide the medication, until they return them and ensure that the rightful owners of these resources take them and develop within themselves. Until they return it, I tell you, I'm not a prophet of doom. They will not have peace.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jake, for that response. Now, Mr. Anaps, my question to you would be, what role do you see the Rivers Elders Council, the traditional leaders, and the civil society playing, to stabilize Rivers State and, the political environment now that Governor Fubara is back?
Well, thank you. I think what we are saying, the Rivers State Elders are saying now, is that the governor to reach out to the State House of Assembly and ensure that there's a proper dialogue so that we usher in peace, understanding, and cooperation. We should also reach out to Wike and ensure that there's a good working relationship between two of them. As soon as we achieve that, then there will be peace in the state. The issue of local government chairman, I think the society has a right to talk. But as far as I'm concerned, State Fubara should not bother himself to go into that, and as well as also probing the sole administrator, because today in Nigeria, we don't have a judiciary. The judiciary has compromised to an extent that they are an appendix to the presidency. We don't also have the National Assembly. They are also an appendix to the presidency. The theory of separation of power is no longer in Rivers Nigerian politics. Therefore, there will be no point to insist on rights, because whatever right you have, when the judiciary cannot interpret it the way it should be, it becomes nonsense. So the government should not bother himself with all this. We have lost 6 months already of development. Like I said, the administrator did not do anything within the 6 months that we can see. That hasn't brought any peace, but there was peace in the state before he came. Until he left, there was peace. So he did not really spend our money to achieve anything meaningful for us. We have lost it. Our money has been looted and squandered in any way they like. So let the governor come in now, concentrate on peace building, and see how we can develop the state and cover up these 6 months that we have lost. Because if you want to pursue it as a governor, you will get another fight, and that will take us back. But if you try to make peace with everybody, all concerned, that we are the same family. River State, we are the same. If I don't in one political camp today, maybe in another political camp tomorrow. Politics is all about interest. The moment everybody's interest is carried out, peace will be achieved. And when there is peace, everyone can go on. But that does not stop other interested parties outside the governor who will take the matter to court. The organic there are good cases. The Supreme Court today rule against itself in some cases. Therefore, one is afraid if one can go to the Supreme Court and get through good judgment. Otherwise, the local government was not properly constituted as it is, but they did not follow the Constitution, neither did not follow the Electoral Act. All the River State Independent electoral they did not follow all that. Mr. President has the power to override the Constitution or the Electoral Act or any other law in Nigeria through a order. It is not done anywhere.
Thank you, Mr. Anas. Once again.
Law. But Governor, please, Mr. Governor, to put it here, see how you can make peace. Don't listen to any advice that will bring other trouble to the state. Let's go for peace now. Let us see how we can develop the state.
Thank you, Mr. Anas, again. Now, while the governor should focus on peace building, Cheta, I'd like to know 6 months, and then there's queries that the interim, emergency governor perhaps maybe squandered or didn't even do much when it comes to development. I'd like to know how much you think grassroots actually suffered in those 6 months of emergency rule. I'd also like you to tell us what you think would happen for grassroots now that Fubara is back in all his popularity when it comes to grassroots. How will he amend anything that perhaps they might have suffered through the past 6 months?
Let's get one thing straight. Fubara isn't popular. If Fubara were popular, there would have been more of a reaction.
You're saying he isn't popular?
I'm saying he is not popular.
He isn't, okay.
If he was popular, there would have been more of a reaction when he was unceremoniously removed. I mean, the reaction tells you everything. The fact that now he squandered an opportunity to actually raise his popularity because he was seen in the state merely as a sort of like appendage of Wike. Wike imposed him on people. So his popularity or whatever it is, his support was not organic. And when Wike withdrew that support, we saw the results. Now, he missed an opportunity to actually build some popularity by failing to stand for what was his rights. Now, let us cast our mind back. You mentioned Fayose. You mentioned Peter Obi. I'll add Joshua Darie.
Yeah.
When these people were removed, they fought for their position. They didn't just sit back and then go and start. They didn't capitulate. Thank you for that word. They didn't capitulate and then go and start begging, which is what Fubara did. So essentially, again, for me, everything is details. The broad picture, which is what I'm interested in, is a precedent has been set. By the inaction of Fubara himself, by his failure to stand on principle, by the failure of the courts to stand on principle. And we are going to see this kind of thing play out in future. And that's really bad. Now we keep hearing about, oh, let us have peace, let us have peace. What peace is worth it without justice? Because when you have peace without justice, you will still have the simmering tensions. And it is an unpredictable thing, something that nobody foresees, that will bring everything up, that will cause a spark. You have to settle the issues on the ground. And there are a lot of issues. First issue is, does a former governor have a right to keep trying to dictate what is happening in a state after he has governed for 8 years? The answer should be no. So why are we still having this kind of discussions?
Oh. Cheta, listen, unfortunately, we've run out of time because we have one more segment we must get to, but Queen had a very interesting question, very summary question she wanted to...
Yes, so earlier you mentioned that, President Tinubu will not be president forever, and then you said...
Will he be?
Well, of course, no, he has to turn out that he needs to rule for. And then you said Mazino, and then I pointed at myself and you said, no, you're a woman. So are you saying that Nigeria could never have a woman president?
In the current dispensation, no. Nigerian politics as it is not configured to allow women to rise to the top. It is that simple. It's an unfortunate fact.
It's not a misogynistic...
It's not misogynistic. It's an unfortunate fact. I think that some of our best if we have Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, if we have Amina Mohammed, if we had Ibukun Awusika running the country will be a better place, in my view. But given the current setup of Nigerian politics, none of them can rise to the top. It's that simple.
Okay. We draw the curtains here, but Cheta, thank you very much for that submission. Also, thank you very much, Mr. Jacob Pele. We really appreciate that you took out time this morning to join us. And also, Mr. Anabs Saribe, thank you very much, sir, all three of you, for joining us on this conversation.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I do not totally agree with him. The women can have a place. It doesn't matter the political structure. One day, a woman will rise to the occasion and take the place. It doesn't matter the political structure.
I do not mind if you elaborate on that, sir, because it's a very interesting, and thank you for actually bringing that back.
Can we have the debates? I'm ready.
If you will, if we can have a 5-minute debate on that.
I'm the only lady here, so I'll just stay in the middle.
No, we can. We can.
Go ahead, sir.
The situation was not given to Margaret Epo in Calabar. She rose to the occasion. The situation
but she didn't rise to the top.
Ransom Kuti. She rose to the occasion. The situation was not given to the Kamala Harris. Yes, she didn't emerge, but she rose to the occasion. The point is that if we keep thinking that the environment has to be right in our senses for the cause of women to emerge, we will keep missing it. One day, a woman will spring surprises. I'm ready to debate this anytime.
Okay, I completely disagree, sir. I think I'll recommend reading Love is Not Politics and Love, or Love is Not Politics by Aisha Osori. It's a very, 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 very interesting compendium of the challenges that Nigerian women face in our modern political space. And I was very clear in my language. I said, as currently configured, everything works against the emergence of a woman. Let's start with late night meetings. How many women can attend late night meetings? That's the base fact. Let's start with the fact that we are wired in a misogynistic way such that when a woman, you see it in, for example, interviews, when an accomplished woman is talking to a group of Nigerian journalists, questions start coming up of, oh, do you cook for your husband at home? Do you wash his clothes? Do you do the dishes? See, as long we have a mental block, and it is time for us to confront that. I think it's interesting that he raised the examples of Margaret Epo, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti. What was the common thing in all of them? It was pre-independence.
Interesting. There's also another checklist that women have to first of all go through before they are even considered for positions.
Where are they from?
Amongst the items in this checklist is education. And if you've taken note, the names that you have mentioned of very highly educated women before they could be taken relevantly. While when you flip the case, on the male,
we have the true women I mentioned, Okonjo-Iweala, Amina Mohammed, Ibukun Awusika, are highly educated. But let's take Okonjo-Iweala as an example.
Oh, no time,
she's from Delta State. Her parents are from Delta State. She married a man from Abia State. And this is something that my own wife will face. My wife is Yoruba, I'm Igbo. Now, if she wants to run for office, where will she run? People will find ways to reject her on both sides of the aisle.
Cheta, you've just opened our eyes to a conversation that we must have.
Listen,
guys, Mr. Jakes is in.
Let me say that. I do respect your views, and I am very optimistic. Even with the current situation, you're sounding a bit pessimistic. However, my brother, the position that Konjiwa.
Oh wow, we seem to have lost him.
Zoom is being pessimistic.
Oh.
I was enjoying that, Mr. Jacobele. I don't know if you're still submitting, but we have lost you, unfortunately. Our apologies, but I think that Cheta, yourself, and Queen have just given us another topic to have as a big, robust conversation, and I'm very excited about that. Thank you very much, Queen.
You're welcome.
For the wahala you've just brought on this dais. Thank you very much to Mr. Anabs Saragbe as well, and thank you very much, Cheta, for honoring our request.
And for the clarity.
Yes. Now, this is what we say goodbye for the show today. We have another installment for tomorrow. Do not forget. However, we're going to leave you with a little takeout.
I'm opposed to any attempt to muzzle the right of people to freely practice their religion and or associate or hold a thought. So the governor of Niger State, like other governors that I've criticized, they have no sense. What is the business of a governor asking, is he a preacher? If the governor wants to become a preacher, he should resign and go and join the priesthood. It's not his business to decide what, if a judge, if a preacher is engaging in inflammatory preaching, I think there are laws that the states can use to rein them in. But to tell a preacher to come and submit their sermons to you in advance, does the governor of Niger State know what is in there? Does he know anything about the Quran? Yeah? If he knows it, why is it that he should go and become an imam instead of being a governor? Foolishness. With regards